The benefits of this lesson will help you create positive mental attitudes that will stay with you for the rest of your life. You might think that exercising your brain requires work, and you are right. I call the following activities brain builders. They represent the entire process of building new neural growth and new networks of neurons being constructed by your conscious choice to build them. If you want to develop new neurons and wire in more brain power, here are just a few examples of the kinds of things you should consider. Don't worry, you will get a full list of new activities to start with detailed explanations in the resource section of this lesson. You might start to learn to play a musical instrument or design a new tile pattern for the bathroom. You might join an astronomy club or master the Rubik's Cube or drive on a completely different road to a place you've never been before, or read Shakespeare, or learn to write with your other hand. What do all of those activities have in common? Each of them will rewire your brain. Each of them will inspire and grow your brain. If you were given the challenge to come up with 100 activities that would help you wire your brain, what would be the 3 most important activities for you? When choosing these brain builders, I suggest you have 3 things in your mind. That you actively participate with a highly focused interest in the activity over a period of time. That you repeat each new learned activity frequently and regularly. That you stay with it and keep doing it. Some thought patterns repeated frequently enough will create new neuron paths in days and others in weeks. How long it will take for you to wire your brain in positive new ways will depend in large part on how much attention you give it. Some wiring happens rapidly. Memorizing a 2-digit number and storing it for life can be done in a matter of minutes. Intently playing a high-action video game can change the neural wiring in your brain or your child's brain in a matter of a few hours. How long does it take to grow a garden? It depends on what you plant, how much nutrition and sunshine it receives, how nature works, and how much attention you give it. The popular ideas on the subject that it takes 21 days or 30 days or 66 days to rewire a new program into your brain are not the final answer. How long it takes to wire in a new neural pathway will depend on the importance of the message and the amount of mindfulness, decision, intention, focus, repetition, emotion, and belief that you commit to the new program. To get started, your first goal should be to work at the activities for no less than 90 days. By the end of the first short goal period, you should begin to see the kind of results that will keep you with it and go for more. Whatever your age, it's time to start using brain builders. Let me give you a personal example. Some years ago, I focused on the incredible opportunity each of us has to do many exciting new things, to find life endlessly more interesting, and to keep our brains functioning at a sharper, healthier level as a result. So as an example, one brain builder I decided to tackle was to learn to write with my right hand. I'm left-handed. I had wanted to learn pottery, so I decided to add taking formal pottery lessons to the list. I also decided to study the architecture of medieval European cathedrals and began practicing Kung Fu. The reason I chose each of these particular neuron builders was that each of them requires practice and dedication. Each of them offers rewards and positive gratification. And each of them is an ongoing challenge. You may do well, but you can always get closer to perfection. I had never written with my right hand, and every pen stroke would be a new neural experience in my brain. Formally learning pottery would tie hand, finger muscle coordination to neural pathways in my brain that had previously not been formed. I knew that learning the details of how medieval cathedrals were built would tax both my right brain imagination and my left brain detail and analytical thinking. Practicing Kung Fu is both a mental and physical practice that is excellent for general health as well as creating new brain cells. Now it's your turn. Start a list with about 20 new activities to practice. In the next lesson, you'll get the 7 requirements to consider when choosing the top 3 new activities. So, let's start. You might think you are too busy to practice new activities. I felt that way also, but I found that the positive experience of tackling each of the new pursuits soon began to make room for the new interests. As an example, by removing television viewing from my life, I did not find it hard to watch even less TV, so I could use the freed up time to do something more important. Since you are probably busy, prioritize your brain-stimulating time by practicing ideas and exercises that will do you the most good or that you will enjoy most. Remember, the list of things you can do to give new life to your brain is endless. Here are the essential elements to keep in mind when you are choosing neuroplastic brain builders for yourself. It's not required that each of your brain builders has all of the following qualities, but the more of these qualities each brain builder has, the higher the chance it will work for you. First requirement: newness. The activity you choose should be something new to you, something you haven't done before, or haven't done in the same way. For instance, you may have danced, but have you danced tango? You may have sketched portraits, but how about the Statue of Liberty or Da Vinci's horse? When you want to create new neurons and new pathways in your brain, choose something that requires you to learn something more than what you already know. How much do you know about Italian architecture, or how to cook a completely healthy meal, or how Churchill became Britain's Prime Minister? You don't have to be a seasoned veteran of discovery. You have to be curious and interested in learning new things. Second, focus. When you are using a neuron builder, the higher the intensity of your concentration, the more neural activity you'll create. Also, if you have been partial to what has been called left hemisphere thinking analytical skills, spend time living with your right hemisphere intuition and feeling, and vice versa. For example, instead of watching the plot of the film, move to another part of your brain and watch the movie while focusing on the feelings each of the actors is expressing. Look for opportunities to think about things differently and see things differently. Difficulty. The brain builders you choose should be reasonably challenging. They can be fun, but they shouldn't be easy. Mastering Kung Fu can be a lot of fun, but for a lot of people it isn't easy. When you are practicing a neuron builder, the rule is this: if you don't have to think about it as you are doing it, it isn't an active brain builder. Choose brain builders that are possible but challenging. Fourth, reward. The activities you choose should have a built-in reward or value. Learning to play a musical instrument, even as a beginner, and even just for yourself, can be very satisfying. Or simply turning the activity you have chosen into a goal with a target date and hitting your target can be a reward in itself. As in all goal setting, actual awards you give to yourself work well. Example of this could be an evening out, some extra time to yourself, something you wanted to buy for yourself, etc. The fifth requirement for choosing your brain builder: measurable progress. Each of the brain building activities you choose should be something that allows you to measure your success or lets you see you are making progress. Doing complicated word puzzles can stimulate neural activity, but they can also create their own sameness, and other than completing the puzzle, you can't tell if you are making real progress. That can mean you are maintaining or strengthening your current neural circuits, but you may not be building new ones. But if you progress from juggling 2 tennis balls to juggling 4 and then 6 of them with equal skills, that is progress. Your brain is wiring more complex circuits, and you can see the results. 6th, stimulation. The more of your senses you involve, the more neurons you will grow. Imagine using the neuron builder of creating a new design for your kitchen. And then imagine you focus on this just as you are going to sleep at night. If you concentrate and if your visualization skills are excellent, creating your new kitchen in your mind will stimulate cell growth. But you'll create more stimulation when you make detailed drawings of the floor plan, when you watch and listen to instructional videos on remodeling that you have found online, when you build a scale model of the completed kitchen, when you show the model to your friends and describe your plans for the construction, and finally, when you write out a detailed materials list and an itemized budget estimate for the project. As you can immediately see, in your brain building activity, there is a massive difference between just imagining the new kitchen and focusing your thinking about the project in an engaging and diverse variety of ways. The 7th requirement, emotional content. Not all brain builders include strong emotional experience, but the stronger the positive emotions connected with your exercise, the more it will do for you. Doing something you are passionate about works as an exercise if it isn't something you have repeatedly done in the past. Find things you learn to love, not just learn to like. If you are exercising your brain by painting in oils, focus on paintings that let you put your heart into them. Paint things you care about. Paint with a purpose. These 7 rules will help you build and maintain the habit of using brain builders in your own everyday life. I encourage you to seek out and implement new brain builders actively and apply the rules I have given you to each of them. When you do, the rewards you reap will be limited only by your imagination and the amount of time and energy you invest in each new activity. A brain in motion tends to stay in motion, while a brain at rest tends to stay at rest. That is why active people tend to stay active, and inactive people stay on the couch. As an example, imagine 2 people riding as passengers in 2 different cars being driven on the exact same route through town. The 2 cars are driving together, one in front of the other. In the first car, the aware passenger notices many things. How long it is taking the average traffic light to change at each of the intersections the cars go through, which retail stores are open and which are closed, whether the streets are in good repair or need improvement, what the sky is like today, and what that suggests for the weather later on. Meanwhile, the unaware passenger riding in the second car and taking the exact same route through town right behind the first car has a very different drive and notices almost nothing. Same exact route, same amount of time, same opportunities to engage the brain. One of the passengers sees dozens of things, the other passenger sees almost nothing. Which of these 2 passengers' brains has the better chance of staying alive longer? It's the first passenger, of course. But what is most important is which kind of passenger do you choose to be? If you'd like your brain to do more things for you, consider those things you may be doing now that could be wiring it against you. If you'd like to stimulate, excite and grow your brain, here are some things to avoid. Doing the same thing each day, day in and day out, it's wrong. Being bored, it's wrong. Never reading a book outside of your personal interests, it's wrong. Spending useless time online, it's wrong. Always talking about the same things, it's wrong. Refusing to try something new, it's wrong. When people feel they have nothing interesting to talk about, it's usually because they are not doing anything interesting, learning anything new, or thinking interesting thoughts. What did the sky look like the last time you saw it? What time is sunrise tomorrow morning? What will you do or learn that is new or different or interesting today? We have learned that improving the plasticity of our brains is up to us, and each day we are giving 1,000 chances to practice it and get it right. Here is the kind of thinking that works. Finding interesting, exciting new things to do works. Being open to new ideas works. Having confidence in your future works. Learning an entirely new skill works. Finding and making new friends with new ideas works. Spending time with inspired people works. Being aware rewires your brain. Can you get up in the morning, get ready, and leave for work without really remembering anything about the hour you spent getting ready? Have you ever shampooed twice, not remembering that you had already shampooed just a minute ago? Have you ever driven to work without remembering driving to work? That can happen to any of us. It happens when we allow our brain to go into mental status, a state of inactivity during which there is little or no new neural activity in the brain. Nothing more than maintaining our life support systems. A brain in mental status is a brain that stays alive but does not grow. A brain in mental growth continues to grow and change. The exercises we have discussed in this module can help. Actively practicing them can help you be even more alive, set new goals, and be interested in your tomorrows. And when you are actively rewiring your brain to see itself as interested, alive, alert, and aware, stimulating your brain will keep it that way. If you think it's too late to start making your brain feel young again, let me reassure you, it's never too late to get better. Your brain is still very much alive and getting ready for your next brilliant idea. One of my favorite words is the word wonderful. As I use the word, it means full of wonder. And that describes a youthful, growing, learning mind at its best. That description should apply to you. It describes not only those individuals who are youthful in years, but those who are mentally vigorous, those who choose never to let go of their wonder. Regardless of your age as you watch this course, whether you are young, middle-aged, or older, are you as focused and clear as you'd like to be? How is your memory? How is your outlook? Once a senior man I met told me that every individual should have at least 8 completely different interests in a lifetime. If you do that, he said, you'll always be alive while you are here, and you'll never grow old. That is precisely how our brains work at best, always having a new interest to look forward to. I have often thought how right that man was. At the time he told me this, he was in his 80s, and he was traveling the world. No matter what age you are right now, if you want to be the sharpest, smartest, most mentally alive person you can be, exercising your brain to take you there can't be an occasional pastime or a diversion. Getting smarter and getting better is a progressive realization. You start from where you are now. Take one step at a time. And if you keep on going, you keep getting better. It is our self-talk, good or bad, that the brain hears most. And it is our self-talk that ends up influencing most of our successes or failures in life. Can self-talk be that important? Yes, it can, especially when you recognize it is the prime programmer telling our brains what programs to wire in. It is our self-talk that forms our beliefs, sets up our personalities, and determines who we are, who we become. If you received only one message approximately every 45 seconds from your self-talk, you often receive many more than that. And you are awake 16 hours a day. Your self-talk is telling your brain what to wire in next, more than 1,000 self-talk messages a day, non-stop. And in your brain, every one of those messages gets recorded. To make the essential subject of self-talk clear, it will help you to distinguish the two different forms of self-talk: negative self-talk and positive self-talk. Negative self-talk is a part of the noise our brain plays randomly for us as we go through our everyday lives. It is the dangerous self-doubting kind of self-talk, which is the result of the programs of negative self-worth or negative beliefs about ourselves that we have wired into our brains in the past. It is negative self-talk we are experiencing when we say things such as, "I can't remember names, I never have enough time, I'm just not creative, I already know it won't work, I just don't have the patience for that." Negative self-talk also invades the attitudes and beliefs we have about everything else in our lives. That is why the glass becomes half empty instead of half full. It is based on the number of neurological programs that become wired in the brain to see the glass that way. Second, positive self-talk. It is the supportive, high-quality, healthy, consciously self-directed form of self-talk. It is positive self-talk we are experiencing when we hear ourselves wiring our brain with messages such as, "I am in control of every thought I think and everything I do. I choose to have a great attitude, and it shows today especially. I can do this, and I know I can. I feel great. My mind is sharp and clear. I'm organized and in control. I do everything I need to do when I need to do it." Using positive self-talk is not an expression of naivete or ignoring problems. Positive self-talk addresses the difficulties of life and deals with each of them. But while being realistic, it addresses those problems with an attitude of the expectation of optimal achievement, rather than with the belief that success is doubtful or failure is likely. The right self-talk is the kind of wiring you can program by design. And you can make sure the self-talk you use contains the correct word-for-word instructions your brain needs for the best results. Those are the precise messages you should be wiring into the autopilot directing your present life now to move it more in the direction of your positive future. What are you wiring into your brain? Earlier, I gave you a few examples of negative self-talk and also a few examples of what positive self-talk sounds like. The first example of negative self-talk on the list was, "I can't remember names." As a hypothetical example, let's take that simple, seemingly harmless negative self-talk statement and show you what saying just that one message may wire into your brain. What you said, "I can't remember names." What your brain recorded. "I can't remember names. I have the world's worst memory. Some people are just smarter than me. Better looking too. I'm not good at meeting people. I'll bet they don't even like me. Why should they? I know I'm overweight. Oh well, what's new? I always forget people's names. I will bet my boss noticed. How embarrassing. That is just me. Oh well, tomorrow is another day. I won't be able to remember names then either. What happened is that your brain is so smart and so fast that instead of just listening to the simple statement of negative self-talk you gave it, I can't remember names, your brain pulled up every similar, equally negative thought or program you had on life. Your brain then instantly reviewed those similar programs, compared them, and re-imprinted every one of them that had anything to do with how well you do or don't do. That is why negative self-talk is so harmful. It not only wires your brain with the thought of the moment, it reinforces every other program you have stored that agrees with the destructive nature of your momentary, unimportant, unnoticed negative thought. And each time you think such a thing, it happens again. Now, let's say you had chosen instead to wire your brain with something of a positive nature. So, let's say that the next time you have the opportunity to be introduced to someone new, you consciously change your self-talk. This time, instead of repeating the old name-forgetting program once again and saying, "I can't remember names," you give your brain an entirely new and different message. This time, what you say to your brain is, "I'm good at remembering names." What your brain records when you say that, "I'm good at remembering names. I am interested in people and it shows. I have a great memory, especially when it comes to meeting new people, remembering people, and always remembering their names. Every time I meet someone new, I choose to put 100% of my focus on them. I notice their appearance, the clothes they are wearing, whether they are smiling or not, how they are feeling, why I am meeting them, and something exciting and memorable about them. When I'm interested in others, they are more interested in me, and it shows. I remember people, and I remember their names." That is what your brain will record, assuming you have those kinds of programs stored in your neural networks so that they can be called up at a time like this. The key to changing your self-talk is repetition. Whether you are listening to recorded self-talk sessions or practicing it daily on your own, the programs in the brain that are wired in most strongly and most often always end up being the programs that win. As we grow and learn, we come to believe that our own pathways are the best roads to follow, often regardless of whether they are really leading us in the best direction. Those roads become our beliefs about everything. It made no difference what was really true and what wasn't true. Those were the messages we received. In time, each of us began to believe that the picture we had of our own identity was set in stone. We believed we could make little changes, but when it came to changing the big things, our personality, our intelligence, our happiness set point, and so on, we believed making those kinds of changes was psychologically impossible. Changing your self-talk clearly works, and it makes life-changing differences in people's lives. Here is how self-talk and neuroplasticity work together in everyday life. Let's say Jennifer really wanted to lose weight and keep it off. She knew her self-esteem was low and she wanted to change it. Lately, she hadn't liked herself and she didn't like how she looked. After trying unsuccessfully to deal with one diet after another, Jennifer finally decided to change the negative programs she had about herself and to replace them with a healthier mental picture of herself. Instead of changing diets, she decided to change her self-talk. When Jennifer changed her self-talk, she changed her programming. By doing that, she actually changed the wiring of her brain. Jennifer wasn't dwelling on the rewiring that was going on in her brain, but she felt different and she felt a lot better. She was creating a new picture of herself, and with her new self-talk, she was learning to value herself more highly. Because of that new picture of herself in her mind, Jennifer began to become the new picture of herself that her new self-talk had created. The key point here is that before Jennifer changed her self-talk, she had been fighting the symptoms of the problem instead of fixing the problem itself. In this case, years of negative self-talk that had destroyed Jennifer's picture of herself. By changing her self-talk, she wired new circuits into place. The old negative programs were eliminated, and so was the extra weight Jennifer had been trying to lose. Self-talk and neuroplasticity work together to create actual changes in something as important and essential as self-esteem and weight loss. It requires the choice to do it, and there are rules to follow, but anyone who wants to use self-talk to change things in his or her everyday life can do so. Your self-talk is the most important player in directing your brain's neuroplasticity to create the pathways you choose to help you run your life. Do you have any programs right now that you'd like to change? It's been my experience that all of us have programs we'd like to change or get rid of. In fact, when they learn about self-talk and programming, most people are more than anxious to trade in their faulty programs for new ones, if they could just figure out how to do it. If you have programs you'd like to change, start with these 2 steps. First, monitor. Listen to your self-talk. Monitor what you say during the first minutes of your morning. Listen to yourself during the day and at the end of your day. Listen to what you say when you are with your friends, and listen to yourself when you are alone. Pay particularly careful attention to negative self-talk statements like those we looked at earlier. I'm not that smart. I could never be good at that. Nothing ever goes right for me. It's no use. When you begin to listen carefully to your own self-talk, including everything you think, you don't have to analyze where those programs came from or how you got them. The purpose of this step is simply to be completely aware of what your self-talk is now. It will help you recognize some of the programs you want to change. If you hear your own self-talk sounding down, negative, doubtful, or less than positively in control of your own life, those are programs you will want to replace. Also, listen to the self-talk of others. When you are listening to your own self-talk, also begin to listen to the self-talk of other people in your life. It can be very revealing. Almost without exception, the people with the best self-talk will also be the people who are doing best at life, not just financially and socially, but emotionally. The second step, edit. Even though your self-talk is a heavily programmed habit and you may not usually be aware of it, you have the power within you to change what you are going to say or think next. Anytime you are about to say anything you don't want to imprint and record in your brain, stop right there. Don't say it, don't think it, replace it. Think the opposite. Think the best, not the worst. Reframe the thought. Rewrite the script. What you say or think next will be recorded in your brain. If you don't want your brain to record it, think something else, something positive that works for you instead of against you. Change "I can't possibly do this" to "I can do it and I know I can." Change "this is difficult" to "I can make this work." When you edit your words and your thoughts from the negative to the positive, you are not kidding yourself, you are not lying to yourself, you are not ignoring reality. After all, your negative self-talk was not true the first time you used it, but you never wondered if you were lying to yourself then. At the moment you first make the change, the new direction, you will not be wired in, so it might sound like that's not you. But what you are doing is giving new messages to your brain, messages your brain will record and act on. What your brain records repeatedly is what your brain will do. That is the new reality your brain will create, and that will be you. The father of American psychology, William James, said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind." 100 years later, it is one of the most significant discoveries of our generation that we now know the mechanism of which we can create and control our attitudes by our own choice. Our attitudes play an influential role in our success as individuals. When it comes to powers of the mind, other than belief itself, if you could change just one thing about someone that would guarantee a difference in that person's life, it would be his or her attitude. All attitudes are habits, and all habits are programs. We weren't born with any of our attitudes. All of them were programs we repeated often enough for them to become wired-in habits. Some of our habits are so mixed with specific emotions that we have a hard time telling the attitude from the emotion. Anger, for instance, is an emotion, but it also becomes a practiced attitude, one we unconsciously call up anytime someone says or does something that's not to our liking, and we are too busy or tired of dealing with the problem in a rational way. We become angry. We may not even realize we are doing it, but it's an easy attitude to put on. We are used to doing it, and it seems so normal. With enough repetition, attitudes can become personalities. A healthy attitude practiced over time creates so many neural networks and connections in the brain that it takes on a life of its own, and the person becomes the personality of the attitude. I've observed people who, when discussing some trait they have, for example, talking too loudly, being argumentative, or frequently interrupting others, will sometimes say, "That's just the way I am." In saying that, they superficially find themselves innocent from the discomfort they are causing everyone around them. But it isn't just the way they are. Not really. They weren't born talking too loudly, being argumentative, or interrupting others. They learned and imprinted those traits often enough to wire in powerful unconscious programs. And they are not even aware it's not who they are at all. It's just who their programs have caused them to become. Choosing tomorrow's attitude the night before. It's a compelling idea to choose the attitude you are going to have the next day before you go to sleep the night before. Tonight, just before you go to sleep, take a few moments and choose the attitude you are going to wake up with in the morning and the attitude you wish to have throughout the day tomorrow. Be specific. I choose to wake up tomorrow morning with a positive, optimistic, go for it attitude. That is the attitude I choose to have all day. Repeat that several times just before you go to sleep, or write it down and read it just before you close your eyes. And then, first thing when you wake up in the morning, begin the day by saying, Today, I choose to have a positive, optimistic, go for it attitude. That is the attitude I choose to have all day. When you do that, not only you will be clear and mindful of your programs, you will almost certainly have a better day. Do the same thing again tomorrow and then again the next morning. Write the self-talk statements that describes the attitude you would most like to have and read and repeat it several times each night and morning. Your attitudes are tools with which you both direct yourself internally and affect your life externally. Healthy, positive attitudes help you succeed. Unhealthy, negative, or harmful attitudes make life difficult and help you fail. The goal is to be able to have any healthy, positive attitude you'd like to have the moment you want to have it. Of the many attitudes you might choose, here is my list of 8 attitudes that will help you the most. The more you practice using each of these attitudes, the more your brain will wire them into place. Practice them enough and you'll have them for life. Here is the list. First, optimism. I'm up, positive, optimistic, and going for it. Optimism is just plain healthy. We now know that this statement is scientifically correct and the relationship between your optimism and your health, well-being and success in general is undeniable. When you practice an attitude of optimism, you win in life in every way. You feel better doing it and you get healthier in your mind and your body. Second, kindness and harmony. I care about others and today I choose to express kindness and harmony in my life. How can you not have an attitude of kindness and harmony? Isn't that life? But to a lot of people, because of your programs, kindness and harmony is not life. At least it is not in their life. They were programmed to think differently, that the world is harsh and competitive. They were taught the meaning of life is to look out for number one. The opposite of that set of neural programs is to grow up believing people are good, people count, and life is not just about self-protection. Life is about loving others, being kind and caring, and making things work. Determination and focus. I am determined to reach my goal. I focus on my goal. I work at it and I make it happen. When you move through a typical day, ask yourself this. Before you even think about it, what is the physical condition of your shoulders? What is the lever of your chin? How tall do you stand? What is the stance of your feet? And how clear is the focus in your eyes? Fourth, service to others. I choose to live my life each day mindful of my service to others. I know that my value as a person is measured by the good I can do. The attitude that asks, how may I help you or how may I serve you, is one of our world could use more of. That attitude leads to the question, how can I help someone other than myself in some positive way today? Service to others is a crucial ingredient to creating success in almost anything you do. But even more compelling is the link between helping others and living a quality life. Thankfulness. Today, I choose to be thankful for all the good in my life. I am so fortunate to live the life I live, and right now is a good time to say thank you. It's hard to imagine a day in which we could not write a long list of things to be thankful for. But in the rush of life, that list can remain forgotten for days or months on end. When you are feeling down about almost anything, read your list of the good you have in your life. When you get angry, read your list. When you are worried or uncertain about the future, read your list. Your life will get better. An attitude of healthiness. I choose to live my life today and every day in a healthy, positive way, physically, mentally, and spiritually. I choose to be healthy. When it comes to healthiness, we know it, we understand it, we can choose it, and when we are mindful of it, we live out more of it. Patience. I choose to create calm, quiet patience in my life each day. When I do, I also remove stress and add to my well-being and peace of mind. Patience seems to be a universal virtue that is always in short supply, and yet patience is essential to any well-made plan and is vital to attaining any measure of peace and serenity. I found 3 specific ways to master this one and to have enough patience to spare. First, practice having a broad perspective. One way to cultivate patience is to develop a perspective on life that is above, outside of, and far beyond your normal day-to-day existence. The kind of attitude you might have in a spiritual state of mind. This is a perspective that allows you to view life from an elevated level, less affected by day-to-day short-term view of life. I know that choosing to have a long-term perspective on life and living that perspective are two very different things. That is because we have so many attention-grabbing mental programs that are immediate, demanding, and not long-term at all. A few of the best ways to help you overcome short-term programs when you need to create long-term perspectives are consciously choosing to think long-term, practicing daily meditation with a focus on building a longer-term picture of life, reading history, reading the biographies of people who lived at least a century ago. When we read about their lives, we realize our problems can seem like nothing compared to theirs, and we often gain a better perspective and insight into our own lives. Next, live a long life, or think like someone who has. Another way to develop patience is to wait until you have lived for many years. Older, wiser people seem to master this one by the fact that it took so many years to get there that their view of life is longer than ours, and one of the results is that view of life is more patience. Next, practice having an attitude of patience. The third way I'll suggest here to master having patience, and by far the easiest to do, is to practice having an attitude of tolerance and wiring it into place in your brain. Doing this may take some time, but it's worth it to your sense of well-being, your peace of mind, and your general sanity. And the good news is that you end up creating a more patient attitude while you are practicing having it. The final attitude is the attitude of success. I choose to succeed in life in every way. I was born to be successful, and that is how I choose to be. The essential element that separates people who succeed from people who don't is their choice to do so. Nothing replaces an attitude of success. The reason this one concept, success, is so hard for so many people to really get is that success in life is not a single program in the brain. It is many mental programs that all work together to create a solid belief, and that is the belief that changes everything. Now, in the end, we would never knowingly choose a lousy attitude. So why then would we ever let a single negative attitude dominate our thinking for even a minute, let alone hours or days at a time? Though I'm not suggesting you wait weeks or months to practice each of the 8 attitudes I've suggested here, if you did take an entire month to practice each of them one at a time, without any doubt, at the end of the year, you would have a fantastic attitude. In actual practice, When you work on wiring these 8 attitudes, you can begin right now to practice any of them or more than one of them on any given day. You will replace negatives with positives day in and day out, and your life will show it beginning almost immediately. Here is the list of the 8 attitudes I keep on the wall in my office. Optimism, kindness and harmony, determination and focus, service to others, thankfulness, healthiness, patience, and success. If you practice these attitudes every day, they will change your brain and light up your life. The famous American author Seth Godin said something very interesting. Your audacious life goals are fabulous. We are proud of you for having them. But it's possible that those goals are designed to distract you from the thing that's really frightening you. The shift in daily habits that would mean a reinvention of how you see yourself. Transformations and overnight successes get a lot of hype. For good reason, who want to be more successful in less time. But here is the problem. When you hear about a dramatic transformation, like someone losing 100 pounds for example, or an incredible success story, like someone building $1 million business in 1 year, the only thing you know is the event that people are talking about. You don't hear anything about the process that came before it or about the habits that led to the eventual result. It's easy to let these incredible stories trick you into doing too much too soon. I know I've done it. When you get motivated and inspired to take your life to the next level, it's so easy to get obsessed with the result. I need to lose 20 pounds or 40 or 100. I need to squat 300 pounds or 500. I need to meditate 3 days per week or 7, or thousands of other variations of your life goals. It's natural to think that we need the result, the transformation, the overnight success. But that's not what you need. You need better habits. It's so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making better decisions on a daily basis. Almost every habit that you have, good or bad, is the result of many small decisions over time. And yet, how easily we forget this when we want to make a change. When you become obsessed with achieving a result quickly, the only thing you think about is how to get to your goal, and you forget to realize that our process for achieving goals is just as important as whether or not you achieve them at all. The desire to achieve results quickly fools you into thinking that the result is the price. But here is the truth. Becoming the type of person you want to become, someone who lives by a stronger standard, someone who believes in themselves, someone who can be counted on by the people that matter to them, is about the daily process you follow and not the ultimate product you achieve. Why is this true? It's true because your life today is essentially the sum of your habits. How in shape or out of shape you are, a result of your habits. How happy or unhappy you are, a result of your habits. How successful or unsuccessful you are, a result of your habits. What you repeatedly do, what you spend time thinking about and doing each day, ultimately forms the person you are, the things you believe, and the personality that you portray. The most common mistake that people make is setting their sights on an event, a transformation, an overnight success they want to achieve, rather than focusing on their habits and routines. I've been guilty of this just like everyone else. And even today, I'm still learning how to master my habits just like you. But over time, I've discovered a helpful blend of academic research and real-world experiences that have allowed me to make progress in many areas of life. In the next lesson, I want to share that progress with you so that you can avoid chasing another overnight success and actually stick to your goals for the long term. So, let's start. We all want to become better people, stronger and healthier, more creative and more skilled, a better friend or family member. But even if we get really inspired and start doing things better, it's tough to actually stick to new behaviors. It's more likely that this time next year you'll be doing the same thing than performing a new habit with ease. Luckily, you can use a strategy that is called identity-based habits to make change easier and stick to your goals over the long term. Here is how it works. I have a friend who is great at remembering people's names. Recently, he told me a story that happened when he was in high school. He went to a large high school, and it was the first day of class. Many of the students had never met before that day. The teacher went around the room and asked each person to introduce themselves. At the end, the teacher asked if anyone could remember everyone's name. My friend raised his hand and proceeded to go around the room and accurately name all 30 or so people. The rest of the room was stunned. The guy next to him looked over and said, "I couldn't even remember your name." He said that moment was an affirming experience for him. After that happened, he felt like, I'm the type of person who is good at remembering people's names. Even today, he is great at remembering the names of anyone he came across. Here's what I learned from that story. In order to believe in a new identity, we have to prove it to ourselves. The key to building lasting habits is focusing on creating a new identity first. Your current behaviors are simply a reflection of your current identity. What you do now is a mirror image of the type of person you believe that you are, either consciously or subconsciously. The reason why it is so hard to stick to new habits is that we often try to achieve a performance or appearance-based goal without changing our identity. Most of the time, we try to achieve results before proving to ourselves that we have the identity of the type of person we want to become. It should be the other way around. Changing your beliefs isn't nearly as hard as you think. There are only 2 steps. First, decide the type of person you want to be. And second, prove it to yourself with small wins. First example. You want to lose weight. Your identity. Become the type of person who moves more every day. Small win. Buy a pedometer. Walk 50 steps when you get home from work. Tomorrow, walk 100 steps. The day after that, 150 steps. If you do this 5 days per week and add 50 steps each day, then by the end of the year, you'll be walking over 10,000 steps per day. The second example, want to become a better writer. Identity, become the type of person who writes 1,000 words every day. Small win, write 1 paragraph each day this week. The third example, want to become strong. Identity, become the type of person who never misses a workout. Small win, do push-ups every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The fourth example, want to be a better friend. Identity, become the type of person who always stays in touch. Small win, call 1 friend every Saturday. If you repeat the same people every 3 months, you'll stay close with 12 old friends throughout the year. The fifth example, want to be taken seriously at work. Identity, become the type of person who is always on time. Small win, schedule meetings with an additional 15-minute gap between them so that you can go from meeting to meeting and always show up early. Now, what is your identity? In my experience, when you want to become better at something, proving your identity to yourself is far more important than getting amazing results. This is especially true at first. If you want to get motivated and inspired, then feel free to watch a YouTube video or listen to your favorite song. But don't be surprised if you burn out after a week. You can't rely on being motivated to make lasting changes in your life. You have to become the type of person you want to be, and that starts with proving your new identity to yourself. In the end, if you are looking to make a new change, then I say stop worrying about results and start worrying about your identity. Become the type of person who can achieve the things you want to achieve. Build the habits now. The results can come later. If you are serious about doing things better than you are now, in other words, if you are serious about sticking to good habits, then you have to start small. Imagine the typical habits, good or bad: brushing your teeth, putting your seatbelt on, biting your nails. These actions are small enough that you don't even think about them. You simply do them automatically. Then they are tiny actions that become consistent patterns. Wouldn't it make sense that if we wanted to form new habits, the best way to start would be to make tiny changes that our brain could quickly learn and automatically repeat? What if you started thinking of your life goals not as big, audacious things that you can achieve only when the time is right, but instead as tiny daily behaviors that are repeated until success becomes inevitable? What if losing 50 pounds wasn't dependent on a researcher discovering the perfect diet, or you finding a superhuman dose of willpower, but hinged on a series of tiny habits that you could always control? Too often we get obsessed with making life-changing transformations. I believe you would make more progress by focusing on lifestyle behaviors. Losing 50 pounds would be life-changing. Drinking 8 glasses of water per day is a new type of lifestyle. Publishing your first book would be life-changing. Emailing a new book agent each day is a new type of lifestyle. Earning an extra $20,000 each year would be life-changing. Working an extra 5 hours per week as a freelancer is a new type of lifestyle. Do you see the difference? The typical approach is to dive into the deep end as soon as you get a dose of motivation. only to fail quickly and wish you had more willpower as your new habit drowns. The new approach is to wade into the shallow water, slowly going deeper until you reach the point where you can swim whether you are motivated or not. Daily habits, tiny routines that are repeatable, are what make big dreams a reality. Dream big, but start small. Knowing how to make changes is one thing, but fitting new goals into your life is something else entirely. Making changes is tough. Whenever your schedule gets crazy, the inertia of life can pull you away from your goals and right back into your old habits. How can you overcome this tendency to fall off course and make time for new goals in your schedule? Using the strategies already mentioned in this module will help keep you on track. But those strategies aren't the only tools at your disposal. In this lesson, I'll share another way to stick to good habits that doesn't require incredible doses of willpower or remarkable motivation. I will also share 2 examples of how I've used this strategy successfully in my own life. If you are anything like the typical human, then you have dreams and goals in your life. In fact, there are probably many things, large and small, that you would like to accomplish. That is great, but there is one common mistake we often make when it comes to setting goals. The problem is, we set a deadline, but not a schedule. We focus on the end goal that we want to achieve and the deadline we want to do it by. We say things like, I want to lose 20 pounds by the summer, or I want to add 60 pounds to my bench press in the next 12 weeks. The problem with this strategy is that if we don't achieve the arbitrary timeline that we set in the beginning, then we feel like a failure, even if we are better off than we were at the start. The end result is that we often give up if we don't reach our goal by the initial deadline. Here is the good news. There is a better way and it's simple. In my experience, a better way to approach your goals and build good habits is to set a schedule to operate by rather than a deadline to perform by. Instead of giving yourself a deadline to accomplish a particular goal by and then feeling like a failure if you don't achieve it, you should choose a goal that is important to you and then set a schedule to work towards it consistently. That might not sound like a big shift, but it is. Most of the time, I try to be a practitioner of my ideas and not just someone who shares their opinion. So allow me to explain this strategy by using 2 real examples. First example, writing. I publish a new blog article every Tuesday and Friday. So far, I've been successful at delivering 2 articles per week every week. Sometimes the article is shorter than expected, sometimes it's not as compelling as I hoped, and sometimes it's not as useful as it could be. But it gets out to the world nonetheless. Of course, I didn't always operate on this Tuesday-Friday schedule. In fact, I came up with reasons for actively avoiding a schedule. I told myself I do my best writing when I'm inspired, so I'll just wait until I get the urge to write. I assumed that if I wasn't doing my best work, then I shouldn't be doing it at all. The problem with this strategy is that my output was erratic at best. It took me a while to realize it, but it's not about always doing your best work. It's about doing the best you can on a consistent basis. Once I stopped focusing on results and simply held myself to a consistent schedule, my work and my output improved. In the first 6 months after I started writing 2 times per week, I wrote more in quantity and better in quality than in the previous 2 years. It doesn't matter what you are doing. If you work only when you feel motivated, then you will never be consistent enough to make significant impact on your life. The second example, exercise. In July 2017, I decided that I wanted to do 100 push-ups in a row with strict form. When I tried it the first time, I only got 36. In the past, I might have set a deadline for myself such as do 100 push-ups by December 31st. This time, however, I decided to set a schedule for my workouts. I started doing push-up workouts every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. There was no total push-up goal for any single workout. The goal is simply to do the workout. Of course, I'm still on my way to 100 consecutive push-ups. My current best is 67 in a row. But in the next 9 months that have followed since I began, I have kept my Monday, Wednesday, and Friday schedule and completed over 100 push-up workouts. My advice for you is to focus on practice, not the performance. Do you see how the previous two examples are different than most goals we set for ourselves? In both cases, writing and exercise, I made consistent progress towards my goals, not by setting a deadline for my performance, but by sticking to a schedule. The focus is on doing the action, not on achieving X goal by a certain date. If you want to be the type of person who accomplishes things on a consistent basis, then give yourself a schedule to follow, not a deadline to race towards. I'm a big fan of doing one thing at a time. But what if you want to change multiple things in your life? What if you want to get better at more than one thing and you want to do it right? Well, I've got good news. Thanks to Keystone Habits, you can actually focus on a single thing and improve your life in multiple areas at the same time. Let's talk about what Keystone Habits are and how you can use them in your life. A keystone habit is a behavior or routine that naturally pulls the rest of your life in order. I first heard about this idea in Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habits. When I started looking at my own life, I began to notice a few routines that led to better behaviors elsewhere. For example, a funny thing happens when I lift weights. When I work out, I want to hear better. Even though I could reward myself with chocolate bars and ice cream, I feel like eating healthy, unprocessed foods. When I start working after exercising, I seem to be more productive. My mind is clearer and my writing is crisper. Thoughts flow easily, and at the end of the day, I fall asleep quickly. I tend to sleep more and feel fresh when I wake up. And when I don't exercise, I see the opposite effect. I'm more prone to eating junk food. I stay up later, get distracted more easily, and I waste time on unimportant tasks. Stress builds and I start to feel tension in my back. In other words, fitness is the keystone habit that puts the rest of my life in place. I don't have to think about eating better. I don't have to force myself to focus on getting things done. I'm not always on top of my game, but on the days I train, everything seems to come a little bit easier. Now, what are your keystone habits? Improving your lifestyle and becoming the type of person who has their act together isn't nearly as hard as you might think. In fact, you might need just one keystone habit before the dominoes start falling everywhere. If you have multiple things that you would like to improve, imagine how much easier it would be for you if you discovered one or two keystone habits that naturally put you on the path to success. The good news, you probably already know what these behaviors are for you. What is the one thing that, when you do it, your day seems to go more smoothly? For me, it is working out. For others, it might be a morning run. No matter what your keystone habit is, it is worth your time to focus on it and do more of it. The right habit, when done consistently, can impact your life in many ways. Habit formation hinges on your ability to bounce back. There will always be situations when following your regular routine is basically impossible. But small hiccups don't make you a failure. They make you human. The most successful people in the world miss on their habits too. What separates them isn't their ability to avoid mistakes, it's their ability to get back on track quickly. The important thing to realize is that the best strategy isn't to avoid failure, it's to plan for it. Using the next 4 strategies, you can plan for chaos and develop a strategy for getting back on track before you get off course. First, put your habits on your calendar. Claiming that you want to accomplish vague goals such as I want to eat healthier doesn't give your mind a clear schedule to operate by. Your habits need a time and place to live in your life. Want to get back on track with your writing schedule? 9 a.m. on Monday morning, butt in the chair, hands on keyboard. That is when this is happening. Want to exercise? Give yourself a time and place that it needs to happen. 6 p.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'll see you in the gym. The bottom line is this. It might be nice to tell yourself that you are going to change, but getting specific makes it real and gives you a reason and a reminder to get back on track whenever you slip up. Soon is not a time and some is not a number. When and where exactly are you going to do this? Do you have a system in place to automatically remind you to do your new habit? Another way to automatically remind yourself is by tying your new habit to a current behavior. The next strategy, stick to your schedule even in small ways. It's not the individual impact of missing that is a big deal. It's the cumulative impact of never getting back on track. For example, if you miss out one workout, you won't suddenly be out of shape, but missing 3 weeks will make a difference. For that reason, it's critical to stick to your schedule, even if it's only in a very small way. Don't have enough time to do a full workout? Just quote. Don't have enough time to write an article? Write a paragraph. Don't have enough time to go on vacation? Give yourself a mini break and drive to the neighboring town. Find a way to stick to the schedule no matter how small it is. Here is another example. Let's say you woke up today with the intention of running 3 miles this afternoon. During the day your schedule got crazy and time started to get away from you. When you look up at the clock, you only have 20 minutes to work out. At this point you have 2 options. The first option is to say, 20 minutes isn't enough time to change my clothes, put on my running shoes and work out. At this point, you'll probably convince yourself that your time is better spent getting caught up on emails or making a phone call you've been putting off, or 1,000 other alternatives. The second option is to reduce the scope but stick to the schedule. You could tell yourself, 20 minutes isn't enough time to get changed and run 3 miles, but it is enough time to put on my shoes and run 5 sprints. On a daily basis, the impact of doing 5 sprints isn't that significant, especially when you had planned to run 3 miles. But the cumulative impact of always staying on schedule is huge. Furthermore, this strategy allows you to prove to yourself that you can get something done even when the situation isn't ideal. It's the cumulative impact of always sticking to your schedule that will carry you to long-term success. That is how little goals become lifetime habits. Next strategy, have someone who expects something of you. I've been on many teams throughout my athletic career. You know what happens when you have friends, teammates and coaches expecting you to be at practice? You show up. The good news is that you don't have to be on a team to make this work. Talk to strangers and make friends in the gym. Simply knowing that a familiar face expects to see you can be enough to get you to show up. And the final strategy, design your environment for success. If you think that you need more motivation or more willpower to stick to your goals, then I have good news. You don't. Most of us acknowledge that the people who surround us influence our behaviors, but the connection between the items that surround us and our behaviors is less obvious. The truth is that the signs you read, the things that are on your desk at work, the pictures hanging on your wall at home are all pieces of your environment that can trigger you to take different actions regardless of how motivated you feel. When I wanted to start flossing consistently, one of the most useful changes I made was taking the floss out of the drawer and keeping it next to my toothbrush on the counter. It sounds like a silly thing to focus on, but the visual cue of seeing the floss every time I brushed my teeth meant that I didn't have to remember to put it out of the drawer. With this simple environment change, I made it easy to do the new habit, and I didn't need more willpower or motivation to do it. In the end, develop a plan for bouncing back. Change can be hard. In the beginning, your healthy habits might take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Anticipating those backward steps and developing a plan for getting back on track quickly can make all the difference in the world. We've covered a lot of information on how to build good habits, but what about breaking bad ones? Bad habits interrupt your life and prevent you from accomplishing your goals. They jeopardize your health both mentally and physically, and they waste your time and energy. So why do we still do them? And most importantly, is there anything you can do about it? How can you delete your bad behaviors and stick to good ones instead? What causes bad habits? Most of your bad habits are caused by 2 things, stress and boredom. Most of the time, bad habits are simply a way of dealing with stress and boredom. Everything from biting your nails, to overspending on a shopping spree, to drinking every weekend, to wasting time on the internet can be a simple response to stress and boredom. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can teach yourself new and healthy ways to deal with stress and boredom, which you can then substitute in place of your bad habits. Recognizing the causes of your bad habits is crucial to overcoming them. You don't eliminate a bad habit, you replace it. All of the habits that you have right now, good or bad, are in your life for a reason. In some way, these behaviors provide a benefit to you, even if they are bad for you in other ways. Sometimes the benefit is biological, like it is with smoking or drugs. Sometimes it's emotional, like it is when you stay in a relationship that is bad for you. These benefits or reasons extend to smaller bad habits as well. For example, opening your email inbox as soon as you turn on your computer might make you feel connected. At the same time, looking at all of those emails destroys your productivity, divides your attention, and overwhelms you with stress. But it prevents you from feeling like you are missing out. So you do it again. Because bad habits provide some type of benefit in your life, it's very difficult to simply eliminate them. Instead, you need to replace a bad habit with a new habit that provides a similar benefit. For example, if you smoke when you get stressed, then it's a bad plan to just stop smoking when that happens. Instead, you should come up with a different way to deal with stress and insert that new behavior instead of having a cigarette. Here are some additional ideas for breaking your bad habits and thinking about the process in a new way. Choose a substitute for your bad habit. You need to have a plan ahead of time for how you will respond when you face the stress or boredom that prompts your bad habit. What are you going to do when you get the urge to smoke? What are you going to do when Facebook is calling to you to procrastinate? Whatever it is and whatever you are dealing with, you need to have a plan for what you will do instead of your bad habit. Cut out as many triggers as possible. If you smoke when you drink, then don't go to the bar. If you eat cookies when they are in the house, then throw them all away. If the first thing you do when you sit on the couch is pick up the TV remote, then hide the remote in a closet in a different room. Make it easier on yourself to break bad habit by avoiding the things that cause them. Right now, your environment makes your bad habit easier and good habits harder. Change your environment and you can change the outcome. Join forces with somebody. How often do you try to diet in private? Or maybe you quit smoking, but you kept it to yourself. Instead, pair up with someone and quit together. The two of you can hold each other accountable and celebrate your victories together. Knowing that someone else expects you to be better is a powerful motivator. Visualize yourself succeeding. See yourself throwing away the cigarettes or buying healthy food or waking up early. Whatever the bad habit is that you are looking to break, visualize yourself crushing it, smiling and enjoying your success. You don't need to be someone else. You just need to return to the old you. So often we think that to break our bad habits, we need to become an entirely new person. The truth is that you already have it in you to be someone without your bad habits. In fact, it's very unlikely that you had these bad habits all of your life. You don't need to quit smoking, you just need to return to being a non-smoker. You don't need to transform into a healthy person, you just need to return to being healthy. Even if it was years ago, you have already lived without this bad habit, which means you can most definitely do it again. Use the word "but" to overcome negative self-talk. One thing about battling bad habits is that it's easy to judge yourself for not acting better. Every time you slip up or make a mistake, it's easy to tell yourself how bad you are at it. Whenever that happens, finish the sentence with "but." I'm a failure, but everyone fails sometimes. I'm out of shape, but I could be in shape a few months from now on. Plan for failure. We all slip up every now and then. So rather than beating yourself up over a mistake, plan for it. We all get off track. What separates top performers from everyone else is that they get back on track very quickly. It's easy to get caught up in how you feel about your bad habits. You can make yourself feel guilty or spend your time dreaming about how you wish things were, but these thoughts take you away from what's actually happening. Instead, it's awareness that will show you how to actually make change. When does your bad habit actually happen? How many times do you do it each day? Where are you? Who are you with? What triggers the behavior and causes it to start? Simply tracking these issues will make you more aware of the behavior and give you dozens of ideas for stopping it. Here is a simple way to start. Just track how many times per day your bad habit happens. Put a piece of paper in your pocket and a pen. Each time your bad habit happens, mark it down on your paper. At the end of the day, count up all of the tally marks and calculate your total. In the beginning, your goal isn't to judge yourself or feel guilty about doing something unhealthy or unproductive. The only goal is to be aware of when it happens and how often it happens. Wrap up your head around the problem by being aware of it. Then you can start to implement the ideas in this lesson and break your bad habit. The famous inventor Alexander Graham Bell said, "The only difference between success and failure is the ability to take action." Procrastination is basically the act of delaying or postponing something like a task, behavior, or action. Our procrastination comes in all shapes and sizes, no discrimination. For some, procrastination is a minor nuisance. For others, it's debilitating. Most people believe they procrastinate because they want to do it perfectly. Better perfect or nothing at all. However, studies show procrastination isn't actually linked to perfectionism at all. The first reason why we procrastinate is linked to impulsiveness, which is the tendency to act immediately on urges. Basically, we feel like we are in the wrong mood to complete a task. And second, we assume that our mood will change in the near future. In other words, our mood towards the task and ourselves at the moment determines whether we procrastinate or not. The reason for this is because we have little concern, understanding, or empathy for future us. We are way more focused on how we feel right now. Talk about selfish. So if we don't feel like we are in the right mood to knock out a 10-page report or even book a hotel room for our business trip, we just let future self deal with the consequences. Eventually, the deadline for the task comes up. We panic and scramble to complete the task. Worse, the task doesn't have a deadline and nothing gets done at all. Let's have these examples and see if you recognize any of them. Have you said any of these before? If I take a nap now, I'll have more focus later. If I eat this cake now, I'll count it as my cheat for the month and I'll make sure to not cheat again this week. If I watch a TV now, I'll feel relaxed to work on the assignment later. Even if you haven't said any of those specifically, they somehow feel very familiar, don't they? No matter the endless scenario in which you could procrastinate, the reason why you put off any attempt to take action is simply this. You believe that taking action will cause more pain than not taking action. There are many reasons why you believe this, either consciously or subconsciously. However, there are three main culprits that tend to cause almost all procrastination. They are fear, stress, and fatigue. Fear, because you feel like taking action could be dangerous. Stress, you feel like a different activity would be more enjoyable or less frustrating. And fatigue, because you feel like you don't have enough energy to take on the task at hand. In a nutshell, you procrastinate when you put off things that you should be focusing on right now, usually in favor of doing something that is more enjoyable or that you are more comfortable doing. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. This is an ancient philosopher talking about modern-day neuroscience. One of the most critical ideas you have to understand is neuroplasticity, the dynamic process of your brain restructuring itself according to the conditioning it receives. Neurons that fire together wire together. We already discussed this. And neurons that fire out of sync fail to link. What you need to do is teach your brain how to stay focused. It's like any other muscle in your body. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. We have to start with changing your self-identity, the person you see yourself. We've already talked about self-identity in the habits module, but now I would like to get deeper from a neuroplasticity point of view. First, you act based on your beliefs. What you believe is possible and true, and if you believe that you are the kind of person who procrastinates as soon as they try to work, then you are going to reinforce that self-identity. You are going to reinforce that pattern of neuroplasticity, and because you'll act based on that belief, you are going to reinforce that same belief again. Second, your actions create your beliefs. If you don't think that you can overcome procrastination because in the past you have failed miserably at it, then you are not going to even try your hardest. That's why you need to gain the experience of staying focused, which is going to interrupt this feedback loop. Third, your beliefs create your self-identity. Who do you believe yourself to be based on the actions you take and the words you use to describe yourself? If you think that you are a procrastinator, someone who can't stay focused, then you are already shooting yourself in the foot. That is a fixed mindset way of approaching things. A person with a growth mindset would believe that they can learn anything and become whoever they want. To get the self-identity of a focused person, you have to make it a priority for yourself to not accept getting distracted, procrastinating. You literally have to say it to yourself in your head, and if you do it enough times, it will develop a certain pattern of neuroplasticity in your head that is going to create these associations. So, how do you develop the habit of overcoming procrastination? First, what you need is discipline. In the case of procrastination, you need self-discipline because the only thing that is preventing you from taking the right action is yourself and your habitually constructed neural networks. The sooner you get over with your resistance, the quicker you can move from inaction to action. And that is a critical step. Second, get in motion. It's Newton's first law of motion. An object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by an opposing force. Which means that if you stay motionless, you are going to stay motionless unless something pushes you into motion. Once you hit the flow, you'll start loving it. And third, enter the zone. And that is how you should approach procrastination. Become smoothed by inaction or slay it with action. One of the biggest reasons for procrastination is fear and self-sabotage, being afraid of taking action and gaining the positive results. That's why starting with redefining your self-identity through restructuring your beliefs and your habits is critical. If you are struggling to trick yourself into motion, then you need some solid routines and habits that would put you on autopilot. After a while, your routines will become a part of you and you'll do them by default. In the next lesson, we are going to start with the practicality part of this module. What are the secrets to superhuman productivity? See you there. If you want to drastically become more productive, get things done, and still have plenty of time for recreation and fun, then you should pay close attention to this lesson. Some people can be very productive and they can get a lot of things done. If you look at how much Leonardo da Vinci accomplished in the 15th century with no internet, no Uber, no Airbnb, and no technology, then I think we are all forced to think ourselves, what are we doing with our time? Isaac Asimov was the 20th century writer and professor who wrote or edited more than 500 books and 90,000 letters, whereas many college students can't seem to turn their 3,000 words essays in time. Or Elon Musk is also able to run several billion-dollar companies in many industries while taking over the leading role of space colonization. So, what is the secret to those people like Leonardo, Elon Musk, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Edison, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, who seem to accomplish a lot more with their time? Are they superhuman? Most of this superhuman productivity results from these people having higher priorities and standards for their goals, but they also have more productive routines and systems for those goals. I think I'm quite a productive person because I've published more than 20 courses on Udemy over the last 2 years, with more than 150 hours of content to more than 70,000 students from 200 countries around the world. Of course, I'm not Elon Musk or Leonardo da Vinci, but I do think that I can give you some superhuman productivity tips that can help even mere mortals get more things done. According to Elon Musk himself, he's not an alien, but let's leave that option open for the time being. Of course, I'm joking. What I'm going to tell you in the next 10 lessons are 10 routines or methods that will drastically make you more productive. In the next lesson, we'll start with the first method, how to pre-plan your day. See you there. First method, pre-plan your day. Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. That is a very important point because being productive isn't just about working hard or grinning your face off. It's about working smarter and more effectively. If you want to reach your goals, then you have to know what needs to be done and how to do it. Otherwise, you are simply clueless and are expecting something to happen. How much time do you waste on thinking about what should you do? Whether that be after waking up or whenever you get an empty gap during the day? Most of your time gets probably wasted on commuting, setting up your workstation, waiting to get motivated, or simply procrastinating. On the flip side, if you are clear about what tasks need to be done and create an action plan in advance, then you are more likely to go through it faster as well. So start the next day, the day before. In the example of Benjamin Franklin, who was one of the founding fathers of the United States of America, an inventor, an entrepreneur, and a politician, you would want to plan out the next day, the day before already. Benjamin Franklin's evening routine consisted of preparing his environment for tomorrow. He also asked himself, what good have I done today? Which means, did what I do actually move me closer to my goals? This forced him to objectively evaluate his behavior and assess his results so he could implement changes wherever needed. What I do is write out the most important things I need to do for the day the previous night, already before going to bed. This will prime my subconscious mind to start working on them while sleeping already, and after I wake up, I don't have to think about what I need to do. In the morning, Benjamin Franklin would ask himself, what good shall I do today? Which means, what are the things I need to do today to get closer to my goals? That is the power of having a strategy and an action plan of the daily activities you need to do. It's going to take out the guessing and makes it easier for you to stick to. Second method, morning routine momentum. The first moments of the morning are the most important ones because they are going to dictate the course of the rest of the day. Albert Einstein called the compounding effect the eighth wonder of the world. It's momentum, a progressive culmination of events that eventually reach a colossal scale. If you immediately hit the snooze or start with negative self-talk, then you are more likely to procrastinate throughout the entire day. The key to gaining momentum on your side in the morning is to start moving and get in motion. You have to push off the first and easiest domino that would make the following dominoes fall automatically. Here are a few good tips for that. When you open your eyes, get out of your bed in some way. I don't recommend using an alarm clock because it can disrupt your sleeping patterns and make you more tired, but you need to get out of your bed sheets in the same shape or form. Go wash your face. Open the window. Breathe some fresh air outside. Expose yourself to sunlight. Do some jumping hacks or burpees. Take a cold shower. Then put yourself in the right mindset. You can either be controlled by your emotion or you can choose which emotional state you are going to be in. Meditation with visualization, gratitude, journaling, affirmation, they are all going to make you feel better, and it's easier to start the day if you are feeling good. This is a principle in physics as well. Newton's first law states, an object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest stays at rest, unless acted upon by an opposing force. You are always being influenced by momentum. In what direction you'll end up going depends on the force you are being influenced by. Having the intrinsic desire to learn and improve yourself should be the catalyst that sets you off on the right track of growth. This kind of childlike curiosity was the stepping stone to Da Vinci's genius. He said things like, "Learning never exhausts the mind. Every action needs to be prompted by a motive." It had long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. The third routine, daily deep work. The last part of your morning routine has to be something productive. Your first hours after waking up should be dedicated to your most important tasks because you'll get over with them faster and you'll thus gain even more momentum. Leonardo has another quote, "I have been impressed with the urgencies of doing. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Being willing is not enough. We must do." The key is to do undisturbed deep work, where you are not getting distracted by the outside world. If you lose your focus, then you not only waste a lot of time, but you'll also lose momentum. That's why you have to dedicate a certain chunk of time to deep work every day where you are focusing hard on one single thing without distractions. Leonardo da Vinci was obviously a master at this, as he was able to create the most famous pieces of art in history, while still coming up with innovative technological solutions. Modern life or comfort and pleasure can condition you to want to get your social media dopamine rush all the time. Some people can even get anxious if they haven't checked their phone every 30 minutes. The advantage of living at Florence during the Renaissance was that there were fewer distractions. However, Leonardo was still a beast when it came to planning and executing bigger projects. For deep work, you have to go into this Jedi-like state of mind and stay immersed in the activity for at least a few hours every day. Fourth method, don't procrastinate or ruminate. One of the worst mistakes you could ever make is waste time on procrastination or ruminating over your thoughts. Procrastination is the biggest waste of time there is because, first of all, you are not being productive, you are not getting anything done, and secondly, you start ruminating over your procrastination. This will cause mental angst, such as, I know I should be doing something, but I'm not. There's nothing useful in that. It will elevate cortisol, which makes you even more stressed out, strengthens the habit of procrastination even further, and you still won't get anything done. Seriously, procrastination is lethal, and it's literally the killer of all hopes and dreams. Whenever you do find yourself procrastinating, you have a deadline but you're not feeling like doing it, for example, then you have to remind yourself of neuroplasticity. As we've discussed through this course, your brain literally rewires itself all the time according to what you say and do. If you start to procrastinate, then you are teaching your brain that it's okay to procrastinate and it will get easier in the future. The more often you have certain thoughts and habits, the more efficient your brain becomes at repeating those behavioral patterns again in the future. This process is called myelination. Your brain literally and physically becomes better at procrastinating every moment you do it. To overcome procrastination, you have to go back to the first domino stone that would get momentum back on your side. You have to get into motion as soon as possible and do something that will get you moving again. Otherwise, you'll drown in your own inaction and procrastination. Which brings us to method number 5. Live 10 minutes at a time. If you want to reach superhuman productivity levels, then you have to learn how to maximize every hour of your day. Truth is, people like Elon Musk or Da Vinci had to sacrifice some of the things in their life, like watching TV or going to parties every night. It doesn't mean you have to give up leisure time where you get to do unproductive things that are fun and enjoyable. Instead, you have to be so ruthlessly efficient with your work time that you'll end up having more free time. That's why it's so important to have routines and keystone habits that make you blaze through the day with super high productivity while having downtime later. You've probably had this experience where you were very productive the first parts of the day. You had an awesome morning routine. Your deep work went amazing. You are in the zone. And you decide to have a short break. That's good, and taking breaks are very important. However, after a while, you find yourself browsing through Reddit, liking funny memes on Facebook, sitting on your ass and stuffing pencils in your nose. To prevent these situations where you lose momentum and fall off the wagon, you have to be as diligent with your breaks as you are with your work. How not to lose momentum? I want to share with you this concept of living 10 minutes at a time. 10 minutes is a long time to get a lot of things done. You can write the outline for an essay in 10 minutes. Or you can go through your emails in 10 minutes. Or you can read parts of a book in 10 minutes. If you were to dissect your day into smaller chunks and bite-sized pieces, then you can really get a lot more done. It doesn't have to be 10 minutes because some tasks may take up to an hour. It can be 20 minutes, it can be 30 or 90 minutes. The Pomodoro technique incorporates 20 minutes of work with 5 minutes breaks, but the problem with this technique is that you may enter the zone only at minute 15 and you'll get zapped out of it right away because of the alarm clock. The idea is to dedicate small chunks of time to doing something important with incredible intensity. I'm talking about tunnel vision laser-like focus, where the only thing that exists is you and the task at hand. They are like mini deep work sessions where you are not wasting time, you are not getting distracted, but you are focusing hard on this one thing. To keep yourself on the right track, you have to ask yourself, what have I been doing the last 10 minutes? And what will I be doing for the next 10 minutes? This will keep momentum on your side and also keeps you on the line constantly. You have to value your time and take action as if you only had 10 minutes left to accomplish your goals. Elon Musk obviously puts it into practice as he says, focus on signal over noise. Don't waste time on stuff that doesn't actually make things better. Method number 6. Batch produce. Another great tip is to be productive in large batches. Like I said, a lot of time gets wasted on first getting motivated, setting up the right gear, putting things in order, and then trying to focus. The longer you do something, the easier it gets, and if you're already got the ball rolling, then why stop? If you were to batch produce your work in large chunks, then you'll get more things done because you cut out the minutiae. The reason why Henry Ford was able to dominate the automobile industry was that of machine-like batch production. His factories actually produced so many cars that people couldn't even catch up with the consumption. Of course, you are not a factory, but the idea is that by creating things in large chunks, we'll get more things done with less time. It's not even a good idea if you try and be productive if you know that you don't have enough time to accomplish any significant amount of work. That's why you have to pre-plan these larger chunks of deep work in which you are living 10 minutes at a time. Leonardo da Vinci took this batch production method to extreme and even went too far with it. He was famous for having a lot of unfinished projects, as it took him decades to finish his most famous paintings like the Divine Supper or Mona Lisa. Maybe it was a part of his plan to leave those tasks on the back burner as he was still able to teach himself Latin and learn about anatomy. Maybe his priorities simply changed periodically. Method number 7. Via negativa everything. Cutting away procrastination and wasting time is a must if you want to teach superhuman productivity levels. However, you also need to cut off all the other unnecessary distractions that don't serve you. Via negativa translates from Latin into negative way. It's basic addition through subtraction. You remove the unessential and you end up with more of the vital few, such as less is more. So many activities to choose from isn't always better. Via negativa can be applied to all of your habits, your food, your material belongings, your responsibilities, and your time. What activities you do or stuff you have that you actually don't need? Are you doing something just out of habit or to try and maintain an old commitment? How much better your life would be if you didn't have to carry all that extra baggage. Removing all the unessential is actually a lot more important than adding more stuff, because one rotten apple ruins the whole batch. Bruce Lee, who obviously was a super productive human, knew what he was talking about when he said, "It's not the daily increase, but the decrease. Hack away at the unessential." Method number 8. Avoid the busy trap. If you really start to via negativa all the things in your life, you'll discover that you actually have a lot of time that you are wasting away. Once you hack them away, you will end up with more time to do deep work, more time to improve yourself, more time to be healthy, and more time to enjoy yourself. Being superhumanly productive isn't about being busy. The two aren't mutually inclusive. You can be very busy and not get anything done at all. You can be very busy at something without reaching the desired outcome. You can be very stressed out and work hard without getting closer to your goals. The busy trap will make you less effective because you'll be more stressed out, you'll have less focus, and you'll waste time. Saying you are busy is actually a way of saying that you are overwhelmed by your tasks. It's a matter of not being capable of handling the things you have to do and not knowing how to manage your time properly. So, stop being busy. The key is to recognize the areas in your life where you have to be productive and effective. This will already allow you to avoid all the potential busy traps. Then you need to apply the Pareto's principle of the 80-20 rule. What 20 of the activities give me 80% of the results? Which of my activities and habits require a ton of effort, but the outcomes aren't significant at all? Am I making my life much harder than it needs to be by trying to be busy? Avoiding decision fatigue and getting stuck in overthinking is also important for not being so busy. There are many decisions you could make every day, but most of them are useless. That is why following certain routines and habits are so good, because they help you to get more done with less hassle. Being busy and having more stuff to do won't improve the quality of your life, and it won't necessarily move you closer to your goals. The key is to recognize what needs to be done and then have the discipline to do it. Method number 9. Keep your body fine-tuned. How much energy and brain power you have at the moment of the day depends on the state of your mitochondria. The mitochondria are the power plants of your cells that influence your ability to perform and feel energized. So exercising, eating nutritious foods, getting quality sleep, and exposure to natural sunlight will all boost your powers to get more things done. So eat whole foods with enough healthy fats, fiber, and protein. Move your body every day in some shape or form. Work out 3-5 times a week. Keep your cardiovascular condition in check so you wouldn't get that tired outside of the gym. Get at least 6 to 8 hours of good sleep per night. Follow the circadian rhythms and expose yourself to natural sunlight during the day. Staying healthy and vigorous is definitely essential for not only your ability to focus and be productive, but to also recover from the work you do faster. Method number 10. Recuperation. The common theme across all these routines is that they are low stress but high effectiveness. That's why you have to make room for downtime as well where you are being unproductive. I'm not talking about laying on the couch or eating inflammatory chips that will give you brain fog. Instead, you have to first give your body and mind some rest by doing active recovery activities such as walking, red light therapy, saunas, and yoga. Leonardo da Vinci certainly valued the importance of recuperation, of recovery. Every now and then go away, have a little relaxation, for when you come back to your work, your judgment will be surer. Go some distance away because then the work appears smaller and more of it can be taken in at a glance, and the lack of harmony and proportion is some readily seen. Another critical component is to reevaluate your progress and analyze the results you are getting. If you are not getting any closer to your goals, then you could spend your time on something that would. Self-reflection and thinking about the rightness of your ways are one of the other superpowers humans have. You can look at what you are doing and then reorganize the direction you are heading towards. Elon Musk also said, "I think it's important to have a feedback loop where you're constantly thinking about what you have done and how you could be doing it better." I think that's the best single piece of advice. Constantly thinking about how you could be doing things better and questioning yourself. So, there you have it. I practically gave you the entire blueprint for being superhumanly productive throughout the entire day. The real secret is planning and prioritization, knowing what you need to do and then be able to do it. Simply having the knowledge or the latest time management app isn't enough. You have to get your skin in the game and actually deliver the results, because when it comes to your goals, results are all that matter. Do highly intelligent people procrastinate? The short answer is yes, and a slightly longer answer is often more than others. I see a couple of reasons for this from my long study of procrastination, both personally and in reading the literature. In essence, procrastination stems from a risk-reward or cost-benefit equation. When the reward is high and the cost is low, we don't procrastinate. If I tell to my daughter, "I will give you $100 just to clean up your room," she will do it pretty quickly. When the reward is low and the cost of effort is high, we put things off. Cleaning out the attic, which I have lived with for 7 years, offers some sort of reward, but not that much of one since I have learned to live with it and the cost is high, hours of useless effort. Interestingly enough, research indicates that when the cost is low and the reward is low, we still tend to procrastinate. It is easy enough to pay bills, but the reward is small, and the cost is, while small, real for the time we are performing this mundane task. This can also be framed as a risk-cost-benefit equation. The risk of not paying a bill on time is relatively low, up to a certain point, and while the cost is low, it may still seem substantial at any moment, and there is no reward except temporary freedom from risk. So what does this have to do with intelligence? 3 things. First, I think that people who are highly intelligent may often have a keener sense of the cost-benefit equation and find it easier to put off paying the bills because they have a clear sense of when the risk starts to outweigh the cost. Second, highly intelligent people tend to have interests about which they are passionate, in which the benefit of pursuing them is large, and the cost of not pursuing them in order to deal with less rewarding tasks seems proportionally large. Finally, highly intelligent people may seem to procrastinate on tasks that actually bring them real benefit. For example, I put a book to read away and go to cook dinner. I hold off on finishing that program proposal until that last minute. Here is where I think high intelligence essentially causes procrastination that will be unpredicted by the research. I put off the book to read because I know, maybe unconsciously, that there is something that has not yet come into shape or view for me. So I put it off and let the gestation process take over. Alright, the fifth part of this course, how to improve your memory. And we will start by diving deeper into how memories are stored and retrieved in the human brain. At the most basic level, memories are stored as microscopic chemical changes at the connection points between neurons in the brain. The brain has possibly 100 billion neurons, each of which connects to up to 10,000 other neurons. By some estimates, there are over 100 trillion total connection points or synapses in the human brain. As information flows through the neural circuits and networks of the brain, the activity of the neurons causes the connection points to become stronger or weaker in response. The strengthening and weakening of the synapses is how your brain stores information. This mechanism is called long-term potentiation or LTP. From here, the story becomes way more complex. The hippocampus is a region of the brain that is specialized to codifying and structuring memories, particularly autobiographical and episodic memories, such as memories about people, places, events. However, some scientists believe that memories are only held in the hippocampus temporarily and are later recoded and dispersed throughout the rest of the brain, using a process called memory consolidation, which may happen during your sleep. The precise way that long-term memories are structured and represented across billions of synapses is the subject of intense ongoing research and remains still one of the great mysteries of neuroscience. Now, short-term memory appears to work completely differently. A phone number can be remembered instantly, but forgotten just as fast. Repetition of experience, such as reciting a phone number, is one of the many ways that memories migrate from short-term memory to longer-term systems. The most popular view on short-term memory is that it results from signaling patterns circulating in recurrent feedback loops within neural circuits on the scale of a 1 millimeter or so of brain tissue, but this too is the subject of ongoing research. In conclusion, memory is one of the most fascinating subfields of neuroscience, and the study of memory is still in its infancy. An important question is how are memories coded by neurons? The models that exist today are still very primitive. Alright, we've done with the theory part of this module. In the next lesson, we are going into practicality. How does the brain decide which memories to store? See you there. How does the human brain decide which memories to store? The brain uses a number of automatic mechanisms to determine what information to retain. Everything else naturally fades away. The brain's overriding principle, given to it from millions of years of evolution, is to retain whatever is likely to be useful for long-term survival. Since the future utility of information is impossible to predict, the brain uses a number of heuristics that have been honed for the millennia. Here are some of the most well-studied. First, repetition. Things that happen repeatedly are either highly significant or irrelevant. However, even if they are irrelevant, like the background noise that you tune out, they must be identified so that they can be removed from perception. When studying for a test, students often use repetition to activate the brain's importance circuits. Next, primary and recency. Things that happened first are often more important because they predict what comes later, and things that happen most recently are often the most relevant because they are closest to the present. Things in the middle tend to get forgotten. This is why so many presentations start and end with an overview of the key points. Next, surprise. Anything that is unusual stands out. This can include an uncanny coincidence or an event that led to something unpredicted. An entertaining science teacher will ask students to guess what will happen and then show that the opposite happens. Setting up the experience of surprise increases retention. If you are thinking of calling someone and the phone rings and it's them, you will remember that for a long time because the coincidence is so unusual. Since you forget all the times you thought of calling without the phone ringing, you are left with the false impression that the coincidence was special. Next, emotional impact. Emotions are one of the ways the brain prioritizes perception and action. Emotions are a way of assessing situations according to their role in our instinctual survival program. A moment correlated with a strong emotional state will be retained for a long time, which is why, for example, leading up to a car accident, people have the memory of time slowing down and noticing every detail. Time didn't actually slow down. It's just that a lot of detail got recorded, and so the event is remembered in this way. Next, leads to positive or negative outcome. The systems in the brain that learn behaviors and habits are especially tuned to the eventual outcome or an action or perception. This is why activities such as gambling can be so tenacious. With a slot machine, most of the time nothing happens, but sometimes the bell rings and the sign flashes winner. Each dose of reward ensures that more quarters go into the machine. Addictive drugs like nicotine and cocaine activate reward circuits directly, causing everything that led up to taking the drug to be given automatically priority by the brain. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, central signaling reward and activating procedural memory formation. When something leads to a strongly unpleasant outcome, emotional circuits label the preceding events as fearful. Alright, we've studied the ways of which the human brain decide which memories to store. Those are repetition, primary and recency, surprise, emotional impact, and leads to positive or negative outcome. In the next lesson, we're going to have a look at how to forget a bad memory. See you there. Memories are merely recollections. When the recollection brings a smile to your face, you call them good memories, and when they evoke any negative emotion in you, it is called a bad memory. Thus, the ability to classify anything as good or bad is a product of our head that has arisen due to our belief systems, social conditioning, etc. In absolute terms, there is no such thing as good or bad, as they are merely projections of our mind or perceptions. For example, there is a popular saying that one man's nectar is another's poison. The thing that is poison for one and nectar for another remains the same. That thing does not change its qualities or attributes based on the person. It is the person's attributes that changes the way the thing is being perceived by him. Therefore, you have classified certain memories of your past as bad. The only way to get rid of them is to accept them. Accept those memories for what they are and for what they are worth. When an unwanted memory intrudes on our mind, it is a natural human reaction to want to block it out. Fortunately, there are ways to train your mind to cope with negative memories in a healthy way, from pushing the thoughts out of your head to reducing the anxiety you feel when bad memories surface. Here are a few things you can do to forget that memory. First, think about the memory until it loses its power. The first few times you remember something bad, it might catch you off guard and leave you feeling anxious and deflated. Your impulse might be to avoid thinking about it as much as possible, but trying to suppress the memory can give it more power when it does pop back in your mind. Instead of pushing it out of your mind, let yourself remember what happened. Keep thinking about it until it loses its sting. Eventually, you will just stop thinking about it so much. And when you do, it won't be painful anymore. If the memories become heavier on your mind, then get on a long walk or do any exercises briskly. If you realize that even after deliberately thinking about the memory it still has the power to hurt you, then try a different method for getting rid of that bad memory. Next, avoid objects and places that trigger the memory. Do you notice yourself getting blindsided by your bad memory when you go in certain places or around certain things? Maybe you haven't realized that they are what's triggering your memories. If you are able to completely avoid the things that trigger your bad memory, it might eventually fade out of your mind. You'll have fewer reasons call it up, and as you keep living life, you'll replace the bad memory with more important thoughts. Next, learn to be in the present moment. The practice of paying more attention to the present moment is called being mindful. It means focusing on the here and now instead of dwelling on the past or nervously anticipating the future. Being mindful is an excellent way to relieve stress and get more out of your life. Instead of spending time and energy worrying about things you cannot change, you get to let go of baggage and just be. Oftentimes, people let their minds drift off during their daily activities and they completely tune out what they're doing. Pay attention to how your body feels right here, right now. Pay attention to your senses. What do you hear, see, taste, and smell right now? Make sure that you do not limit your senses or memories of the past. Try meditation. Most forms of meditation are all about mindfulness. Focusing on breathing and freeing your mind from distractions help you live more fully in the present moment. Fourth, have a busy life. Keep your schedule full and your mind stimulated, so you have less time to dwell on negative thoughts. If you tend to spend a lot of time by yourself, make it a point to go out more with your friends or visit your family more often. Distract yourself with a good book or pick up a new hobby. The more time you spend sitting around with nothing to do, the more likely you are to dwell on old memories. Fifth, make your health a priority. When you are consumed with negative thoughts, it can be valuable to remember to take good care of yourself. But keeping your body in good health has a big effect on the way you think. Eating nutritious food, getting plenty of sleep, and working out a few times a week will go a long way toward keeping bad memories at bay. In addition to making sure your basic needs are met, take time to pamper yourself a bit to help ease the anxiety stemming from your bad memory. Try to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, since being fatigued can make your emotions run higher than usual and leave you susceptible to dwelling on bad memories. Next, grieve the memory. Acknowledge the memory and the negative emotions associated with it. While this may seem counterproductive, catharsis is a key element of the healing process. Suppressing a bad memory will only cause it to come up again later in your life, and with even more intensity. Let yourself feel angry, sad, embarrassed, or hurt. If you need to cry or scream, do it. You'll come out on the other side feeling more able to cope than if you try to ignore your path. Next, talk to someone about it. Turn to a friend or family member whom you trust. Other people can offer advice, share similar stories, and even reassure you that perhaps the incident wasn't as horrible as you have made it out to be in your head. If possible, talk to someone who is unrelated to the incident. This will give you the fresh perspective that you need. If you are not comfortable sharing the experience with anybody else, write about it in your personal journal and keep it in a safe place where nobody else will find it. So, these are a few things you can do. But even if this does not help and if the memory is disturbing you a lot, then you can reach a professional psychologist. With that being said, in the next lesson, you are going to learn 14 easy hacks to improve your memory. 14 simple hacks to improve your memory. Sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory. You can use them every single minute. Many of us struggle with memorizing things, and even if we do, we can't recall them later on. The information is either lost or we get confused. Why does this happen? The main reason is our failure to convert the sensory memory to long-term memory. First, understand the 3 stages of memory. Then we will move to the techniques that will help you to improve it. So, first stage of memory. Sensory memory. Whatever we experience for the first time passes through our sensory memory. While you are seeing and listening to this video, there are certain activities going around you. Maybe the doorbell or ringing your phone or the sounds of the birds outside. It will all pass through your sensory memory and will fade away if you won't pay attention to it. In the second stage of memory, if you will pay attention to the information, it will move to the short-term memory or STM. In the first stage of memory, the information that can be retained for a longer duration is the long-term memory. Here are 14 and tested techniques you can follow to improve your memory. First, pay attention. The most basic and very important technique is to pay attention to whatever is important to you, and you are required to remember for a long period. The information we listen or read first enters our sensory memory, and it is moved to the short-term memory only when we pay attention to it. Paying attention to the important information will help in the process of memorizing later and will improve memory in the long run. Next, understand the meaning. Once you pay attention to a particular piece of information, it is very important to understand it in detail instead of simply repeating the word. This technique to improve memory is called elaborative rehearsal. For example, if you want to remember the word photosynthesis, don't simply mug up the word. Understand the meaning. Photosynthesis is a process used by plants to convert light energy into chemical energy, which is the food for the plant. Next, chunking. It is a technique where a long piece of information is broken down into smaller chunks. The smaller chunks of information are easier to learn than the longer uninterrupted information. Here is a simple chunking. If you want to remember a phone number, for example 9899802801, you can simply remember the information such as 9899802801 rather than reading the whole piece in one go. Meaningful chunking. If you want to remember a long list of letters, say XMITRATCHITMISS, you can simply break it as X, MIT, RAT, CAT, HIT, MISS. Chunking list. If you want to remember a long list of items, the best technique is to organize the information and form chunks. For example, the list to remember includes eggs, perfume, soap, butter, chips, bread, face wash, Coke, and nail paint. You can simply remember the information by organizing it and then forming chunks such as eggs, butter, bread, which are breakfast items, perfume, soap, face wash, nail paint, which are body essentials, chips, Coke, which are party items. Next strategy, explain it to others. One of the simple techniques to improve memory is explaining the information to others. This will help you to understand the information better, and it will be stored in your long-term memory. Next, use your power of imagination. The method of loci, or the memory walk, is an interesting technique to remember items by placing them in a familiar location mentally. Suppose you want to remember a certain list of items to purchase, such as sugar, rice, potatoes, and chips. Now imagine yourself walking through the route where you generally buy your ration. Next, imagine yourself placing all the items that you need to remember one by one. Walk through the route and imagine buying all the items one by one. This method will help you remember the list better, and you will recall the list easily during the shopping. Next, give yourself cues to remember. If you learn something in a happy mood, it will be easier to retrieve the information in a happy rather than a sad mood. Try to study in the room where your exam would be conducted. It will provide you more external cues, and the retrieval of the information will be better. The information is retrieved more easily when the conditions at the time of receiving the information are the same at the time of recalling. The process called encoding specificity. Next, space out your studies. If you're a student and you get confused every time you study, then you should stop studying similar subjects together. If you are studying a concept of science, try to study some topic that is not familiar to it. Studying social science or mathematics can be a good option. This is because the learned information earlier might get lost, or you may get confused between the two. Spacing out similar information is a good way to learn effectively, through which you can avoid the proactive, previously learned information hinders the new learning, and the retroactive interference. The newly learned information will affect previously learned information. 8. Say it out loud. If you want to remember a piece of information, say it out loud. This will involve more than one sense. You will not only read it, but also listen to the information. This will help in better recall of the information. 9. Doodle. In memory tests, doodlers performed 29% better than non-doodlers when asked to recall names and places. It was a study research done by Plymouth University. When you doodle, you draw and see the images, thus further aiding the process. For example, if you want to remember a list of monuments for your history test, the easiest way is to draw those using different colors. This will improve your memory for the monuments. And don't worry, you don't have to draw something very specific. 10. Wiggle your eyes. Moving your eyes from right to left and from left to right could help you improve your concentration. The left and right side of your brain perform different activities, and this will help in improving the communication between them. 11. Take enough sleep. 6 hours of sleep is not enough for everyone. You require 7-9 hours of sleep. If you don't sleep well, then all problem-solving skills, creativity and critical thinking are compromised. You should always follow a routine and avoid TV, laptops, tablets, cell phones, etc. 1 hour before going to bed. Sleeping also helps in memory consolidation. 12. Exercise. Swimming, cardio, running or dancing for 30 to 45 minutes 3-4 times a week can help to improve memory. Cardiovascular exercises enhance the blood flow to the brain, further increasing the secretion of a protein necessary for long-term memory, called neurotrophic factor. 13. Keep your stress in check. Chronic stress destroys the brain. Always form realistic targets and take breaks during your work. Avoid multitasking and focus on a single task to reduce stress. And the last technique, have a balanced diet. Having food rich in vitamin D, omega-3 and reducing the intake of foods containing the damaging omega-6 fats will make the brain healthy and would improve memory. Vitamin C found in citrus fruits is associated with mental agility. Vitamin B, on the other hand, is known to guard against age-related brain shrinkage and cognitive impairment. Fish, green leafy vegetables, mushrooms, peanuts, sesame seeds and eggs can help to level up your brain power. Vitamin K found in broccoli, kale, collard greens, and spinach is required for brain cell development. My advice for you is to follow these psychological techniques and eat the right kind of foods to improve your memory. Alright, we are done with the last part of our course, how to build a better memory. If you have any question, I'm here to help you. Thank you very much. Our lives run on habits. We have habits for what we eat, how we dress, and where we drive. Habits dictate whether we jump out of bed each morning or hit that snooze button. Habits decide what actions we take on a consistent basis. Our habits ultimately decide much of the outcome of our lives. January the 1st seems to create a lot of enthusiasm for people desiring to make changes. But after a few short weeks, these people revert to their old habits. So disappointing is this ritual that many people have completely given up on the idea of being able to change their habits. These people think that perhaps habit changes are only for those with a lot of willpower or drive. The few people that are able to make changes on their habits usually reserve that power for extremely critical changes. Is it even possible to gain control over our habits? Yes, habits can be changed, and we can even reach a point where even dramatic habitual changes are fairly easy. Changing habits is a skill. Like all our skills, it needs both practice and technique. Once you are competent with the skill, you can use these techniques to conduct your own personal experiments. Instead of sitting back and talking about different set of habits you would like to live with, you can actually try it out. Inside this course, I'm going to talk about how to understand the whys behind a negative behavior and how to build positive habits to help you overcome it. Another thing is the underlying psychology behind your bad habit. You perform every action for a specific reason, but rarely do you take the time to fully understand your behavior. Inside this course, you will learn how to explore your feelings while engaged in a bad habit and then create a clear action plan for when temptations appear. I designed this course to be an action plan. There's no fluff inside. I built short and to-the-point lessons. I've included many case studies from my life or from my friends that best illustrates the logic behind each advice I'm going to give you. My goal is to provide you with a course that can be taken in a short amount of time and then immediately applied to your own life. Now, here is your first action step for you. If you didn't do it already, introduce yourself. Open a discussion to this lesson and please introduce yourself. What is your name? Where do you come from? What are your expectations from your course? What bad habit do you want to completely eliminate from your life? Alright, talk to you in the discussion section and I will promptly reply to you. Thank you very much. There is a high probability that you've tried to break a certain routine, a certain habit in the past. And there is also a high probability that you failed because you didn't have a strong plan in place or you relied too much on your willpower. But please remember this, past doesn't equal future. So if you failed in the past, that doesn't necessarily mean you will fail in the future. Normally, it's a direct result of missing a clear strategy for breaking up that habit. So, before we properly start this course, please take your time to figure it out what you are giving up. What is the plan for the resistance you are going to experience along the journey? Remember this, you have a limited amount of willpower every day, and when it's depleted, it's really hard to control your impulses. The most important part of this strategy is to focus on changing one habit at a time. You know why most people fail with their New Year's resolutions? It's because it's almost impossible to change multiple habits at the same time, because they make a long list of things, of habits to break or to implement. and most of them don't have the necessary willpower to manage so many routines in the same time, usually 4, 5 or 6 in the same day. As a result, normally after maximum 2 weeks, they give up and they return to the old routine. Now, what is my point with that? Between choosing to change multiple areas of your life in the same time and implementing only one habit in the same time, I would choose the second option, one habit at a time. That way, you are going to focus all your energy on making just one change. And in the next lessons, I'm going to show you how. Now, every lesson of this course will include an example of how I implemented that step to eliminate a bad habit. Like most people, I spend a lot of time on the internet. Of course, this is a positive way, but however, I developed a bad habit of spending too much time using my smartphone when I wasn't in front of a computer. Sometimes I checked my email from the smartphone even before going to sleep, and it's not healthy, physically and mentally. But a few months back, I read an article that says you need to dedicate a day, a single day every week or month to completely unplug from the digital world. And I decided to have that practice in place. 1 day per week without any cell phone. You might think that this is a vague outcome and it's impossible to track. But I'm going to show you later on in this course that I was able to split this concept in specific strategies. And as a result, I don't have anymore this tendency to check my phone when I'm trying to relax. In the next lessons, I'm going to show you how. Thank you very much. There are many opinions on the internet about how long it takes to make a lasting habit change. Some people believe it takes 66 days, others 21 days. But in my opinion, from what I've seen and compared, it takes at least a month to eliminate a bad habit. So a great way to get started is to have a 30-day habit challenge in place. This 30-day challenge tricks your mind into forming a new habit. You know, it's easy to do something unpleasant if you think it's only for 1 month. And when the time ends, you'll be very close to making a permanent change. Also, this 30-day challenge gives you an out if the new habit is not working. At the end of the month, you can decide if it's worth continuing. What usually happens is you want to maintain that momentum and keep going at the end of this 30-day period. What I really like about this concept is the confidence you gain. You know what it's like to follow a habit on a day-to-day basis. So you develop an intuitive understanding of your negative and positive triggers. This information is important when you focus on improving your results. Here is my action plan for you. Start by opening a journal about this habit. Ask yourself why it matters. You know, what you write over there is not so important. What is important is for you to understand why you want to make this change, what is your motivation, and what result you expect from this experience. What's the outcome? Second, obstacles. Every habit has a trigger. It might be a thought or an action that makes you want to do that bad habit. What you need to do is to identify any trigger that appears. Use your journal to track triggers by writing them as detailed as possible when they appear. Ask yourself, where are you? Who is with you? What are you doing? What thoughts are in your head? This data is very important for eliminating the bad habit and replacing it with something positive. Third step, your action plan. Write down an overview of the habit along with the step-by-step actions you are going to take. You must include any tools that will help you or prevent you from completing this new routine. Fourth, results. You need to track your success with a daily metric. You can do it on an Excel spreadsheet, on a piece of paper, or on different apps over there on the internet. You need to add these elements. Did you do this habit today or not? Ask yourself, yes or no. Second, how many times did you complete that habit in terms of quantity? Next, are you over or under the set quota? Number. And last, how long did you spend on this habit every day? aka time. This metric is the key to forming a permanent habit. Of course, I must be honest with you. There will be days when you are going to fall. The important thing is to track these bad days and move on. And the last thing, decision. Ask yourself, should I stay or should I go? Ask yourself this question at the end of the month in order to make a decision. And analyze this habit. Did it help in any way? Can you improve the process? Did you have time to complete it? Should you try it for another 30 days and see what happens next? Should you keep it or should you eliminate it? It's important to make a decision at the end of this period, at the end of those 30 days. And I recommend you to do these 3 things. First, keep it. Continue to track this habit on a daily basis. Try to turn it into a permanent change. Second, eliminate it. The habit didn't work for some reason, so you need to stop it. And third, improve it. Some habit changes will not work because you created a bad process. So you need to change the routine and try it again from a different attitude. Now looking back at our example, I've said in the previous lesson that I made the decision to reduce and not eliminate the amount of time spent on my smartphone. And here is how I organized this process. First, the reason. Improving my quality of life was my primary motivation for reducing the amount of time spent on my smartphone. I hated that when I was supposed to relax, I tended to open my smartphone and check what's new, what emails came. By reducing the time spent on my smartphone, I hoped to have more free time for the fun things in life and also time to concentrate, to relax. Second, obstacles. My main trigger for this habit was that I got bored. Instead of finding an engaging activity to do in the morning or in the evening, I used my cell phone as a motive to break the monotony. Third, action plan. At the end of my workday, I would put my phone on the charger and then I would refuse to touch it until the next morning. And this created a block of time, usually 10-12 hours, free from my smartphone. But of course, in this action plan, I had some problems to face. For example, what if I had to check something important online? The solution was to use my notebook if I really had to look at something. And because it's quite time-consuming to open my notebook, wait for a couple of minutes to load everything, so this helped me to quickly determine whether it was really important to open my notebook and checked if emails came or not. Second, what if I had to wake up early in the morning? Well, the solution was simple. Buy an alarm clock. These devices can be bought from every major store, so that wasn't a problem to solve this issue. Next, what if someone called or texted me with an emergency? When I connected my phone to the charger, the sound volume was at the maximum level. So if someone called and I knew that person very well, I was able to answer. Fourth, results. I used a simple yes or no metric to track this habit. From that 30-day challenge, I was able to get completely off from my smartphone 28 days, which was a success for me. And more importantly than that, I got more out of my life in that period of time. My mind got clear and my level of stress decreased a lot. I became more social with others around me, and my creativity level increased. Now, decision. I had to give it a go to this habit. Yes, I was able to do it only 28 out of the 30-day challenge, but still, that was a success for me and the results were more than positive. And this created a trigger that got installed in my mind. And I still know that at the end of any workday, my cell phone goes connected to the charger and I will not touch it until the next morning unless something important really appears, which is rare. Thank you very much and see you in the next lesson. If you really want to break a bad habit, you need to take this process at a serious level. For that, you need to set a clear date when you want to start and a clear date for the end. From my experience, if you have a start date implemented, this creates a positive excitement for you. Your goal is to improve your life, so you need to feel positively energized about this 30-day challenge. My advice for you is to start as soon as possible. If you are in the middle of the month, please don't delay another 2 weeks for the beginning of the next month. It's important to start now, next day or in the next days, but please don't delay that. In my case, my starting date was February 19th this year. In the next lesson, I'm going to talk about how to set a powerful goal for your habit to break. See you there. Thank you. Avoid drastic change. Your best long-term results come from making gradual changes in your life. It's advisable to focus your energy on making small changes that compound over time. And here is the reason. We all took drastic decisions at some point in our lives. You promise you will never do a bad habit again. And a few days later, you are doing exactly the same routine you promised to yourself you would eliminate forever from your life. Of course, there are some cases when drastic changes might work. For example, I know some people who promise to themselves, okay, from now on, I will never ever drink or smoke in my entire life. But this is an exception from the rule. For every person who succeeds taking drastic and severe decisions, there are dozens or hundreds of people who experienced complete failure after taking a drastic decision. Most people are over-perfectionist with themselves and they beat themselves up. Most people have this mindset. One mistake, total failure. My life is a mess. No one is perfect. I'm not perfect, you are not perfect. Having a goal of never ever again leaves you with no option when the small temptation of doing that bad habit occurs. And it will occur, I can promise you that. Focusing on perfection is not the key to change any routine. Quite the opposite, it can make a bad habit worse. Think about those times when you are trying to only eat healthy foods, organic foods. And one day you are going out with your friends. You see others around you who might eat pizzas, for example, or hamburgers, and you tend to order the same plate. So what usually happens at this point? Do you count it as a mistake and jump right back into your diet? Not usually. Usually, when you make this mistake, you tell to yourself, does it matter? I've already made a mistake, so I might as well enjoy my failure. And once this happens, you might slip into a strange behavior resulting in complete failure. As I've talked before, willpower is like a muscle. It doesn't have an on or off switch. It's built and strengthened through constant use. Everything you do that requires willpower weakens your resolve, your power of decision, and increases the chances that your willpower will break down the next time you try to use it. So, my advice for you is to split a habit change into small actions. That way, you are not drawing too much from your overtaxed willpower. The idea here is to create small wins that build emotional momentum, which helps you prevent those spectacular failures that often happens when you take dramatic decisions. So, taking this diet example, what you could do is to focus on a small part of your diet for the next 30 days. For example, avoiding any fast food restaurant. When you have eliminated this habit, you can continue to the next part of this diet habit to improve. So, my final advice for you is to avoid this all or nothing approach. So, taking my smartphone avoidance example, I've told you that my decision was to avoid using my smartphone from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. next morning. So, the idea is that I didn't take a drastic measure to completely avoid using my smartphone, just in the evening, during my sleep, and in the morning, except urgencies, of course. And second, I gave myself 20 days out of 30 as an objective. I didn't put 30 days strict. So in that way, I had some peace of mind, understanding that I'm not perfect, that I might miss some days, and that I don't have to be drastic with myself to avoid completely using my smartphone. And this is the attitude you will need to successfully break any bad habit. Be your best friend. Be your own cheerleader. Thank you very much. And let's jump now into the next lesson. What I recommend you to do if you want to implement a permanent change is to focus on daily improvements. Your goal is to eliminate your bad habit by setting target goals that decrease step by step the amount of time you spend on it. And it all starts with asking yourself a daily yes or no for eating fast food. How much you currently weigh. The number of cigarettes smoked every day. The number of calories consumed on a daily basis. Or the amount of time you spend watching TV. Remember this, knowledge is power. The more information you have about a habit, the easier it will be to completely eliminate it. In my case, the smartphone usage decrease was a simple yes or no question. Either I put my cell phone away for the day or I didn't. As you can see, some habits don't need a large amount of tracking. Some bad habits are a yes or no question. Either you do them or you don't. With others, it's about the amount of time you spend doing that. With these habits, making drastic changes isn't a good idea. Instead, it's better to create step-by-step goals where you slowly move away from that bad habit. For example, let's say that you are a smoker who smokes around 20 cigarettes a day. Your final goal is to completely eliminate this habit. But for now, let's have these step-by-step goals. 15 cigarettes each day for weeks 1 to 3. 10 cigarettes each day for weeks 4 to 6. 5 cigarettes each day for weeks 7 to 9. 3 cigarettes each day for weeks 10 to 12. And 1 or few cigarettes each day for weeks 13 and beyond. Of course, these numbers will be different, and there will be times when you will fail with this goal. The key here is to make slow, steady changes to your life. Breaking a habit in a methodical manner gives your body and mind a chance to diminish their constant cravings. Now, the question is the following. How do you distract yourself from the desires associated with this habit? The first answer, it would be replace them. And I'm going to talk about this in the next lessons. Once you start eliminating a bad habit, you want to replace it with a new, healthier activity. And in my example, the smartphone usage decrease, I didn't use step-by-step goals for my goal. Instead, I focused on building the habit of leaving the cell phone in my room connected to the charger for 12-hour period and avoiding to check it during the evening hours unless something really urgent occurs. Alright, thank you very much and see you in the next lesson. It's very hard to determine how much time you spend on a habit. Sometimes it even acts as a constant reminder of what you are giving up. So, the secret for eliminating this behavior is to identify its habit loops and figure it out the underlying motivations of why you do it on a regular basis. But what are habit loops? These are actions that bring you from a trigger to reward. If you understand these actions, you are going to take that first step toward making a permanent lifestyle change. The best way to eliminate a habit is to gradually replace it with good routines. That means instead of focusing on what you are missing, you will follow new routines that give you the same reward. Once you have scheduled a start date, you will want to take time to understand the 3-step pattern of your habit. The trigger, based on the reward you are seeking, the reward, the satisfaction you seek by following the routine, and the routine, a physical or emotional action you take to obtain the reward. You know, all habits have actions and thoughts that occur beforehand. First, the trigger creates a craving to get a reward. The reward is the satisfaction you feel from following this routine, or it's the removal of stress created by the trigger. And the routine is the action you take to satisfy this impulse. And the best way to understand this process is to understand its individual components. Related to my case study, it took me a while to understand why I had this desire to check my cell phone. And I was able to break this habit into a typical pattern. The trigger. This desire started with an impulse to check some aspect of my work. It was often triggered by a thought such as, let's see what's going on this Facebook group. In a way, I experienced a level of anxiety that was only diminished by looking at a web page on my cell phone. Next, the reward. It was usually quite a direct one. I felt less anxious once I looked at a page and realized it's okay. And third, the routine. It usually followed a similar pattern. I would check a certain page on Facebook. What this friend did lately, what that guy said on this Facebook group, etc., etc. And 1 hour later, I'd end up watching a low-quality article such as 5 steps to become rich, or you'll never know what happened to XYZ person. And I'm pretty sure we all fall into these trashy articles or videos from time to time. Now, in the next lesson, I'm going to talk about how to record the habit triggers. See you there. Every day we are surrounded with triggers to take certain actions. They are external, such as sound, sight, smell, or internal sensations that sparks this desire. In order to make a permanent change, you need to fully understand when and why these triggers occur. You can easily do this by recording this information. First, location, where you are. Second, time, the exact time when you felt that desire. Mood, your emotional state and what you are thinking. Fourth, people, who is with you and who is around you. And 5, action, what did you just do? What are you currently doing? The key to this exercise is repetition. Focus on recording these 5 data points in the first few weeks of the new habit change. Do this for at least a week and you will see a pattern to your behavior. Looking back at my case study, at my example, let's say you are trying to decrease your cigarettes that you smoke. On the surface, it might look like a normal activity, but this habit has led to a number of problems. Arguments at home, decreased productivity, and also a decrease in your health. Now you realize that this is a serious issue. After carefully analyzing, you notice these 5 patterns that stand out. First, location. The cafeteria from your workplace. Time, 10 a.m. Mood, stressed out, nervous, anxious. People, with your colleagues, Matt, Andrew, and Jane. Action, debating about the latest decision of your manager. Your goal is to minimize the consumption of cigarettes. After tracking this habit for a few weeks, you realize that the problem most often occurs when you are stressed out and you feel like hanging out with your colleagues and gossiping. By analyzing these triggers, you now know that your smoking of cigarettes is caused by a desire to feel relaxed and reduce stress. And more importantly, it's an activity you prefer to share with other people who have the same habit. Coming to our example, this is one trigger for my desire to check my cell phone. Location, in bed. Time, 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. Mood, bored, weak, unenergetic. Thinking about what happened on Facebook last night. People, all alone. Action, just woke up. As you can see, I felt this desire to see how things were going on Facebook right in the first moment when waking up, when this moment normally needs to be dedicated to some kind of routine away from electronics, such as meditation. In the next lesson, we are going to analyze different routines we can take to break our bad habits. Thank you very much and see you there. If you want to find the best replacement habit, then you need to examine your mood after completing a new routine to see if you still feel a desire to do the bad habit. If it's still there, then you know the replacement habit doesn't produce the reward you are seeking. Let's have our cigarette smoking example. You tried, for example, exercise and meditation, but neither reduced your stress levels. What did work was forming new friendships with people who don't spare their time in a bar. These positive people help you feel relaxed, which decreased the tense feeling you experienced before having a drink. You also know that Andrew and Jane love swimming, which is a sport you also enjoy doing. This means you can minimize your smoking while staying connected to one of your friends. Another thing you might notice is that people often trigger bad habits. That means you have to make a decision. Either you spend less time around them or you keep repeating unhealthy behavior. Of course, it's not easy to let go of certain people, but sometimes you need to sacrifice relationships that typically lead to self-destructive habit loops. In my cell phone example, I tested a few things, tracking the time I use it or disabling certain applications. None of this worked because I wasn't dealing with the underlying reasons of why I felt the desire to check my phone. I also discovered that when the phone was physically put away, the impulse wasn't always there. I ultimately chose to put my cell phone on standby for a period of time during every day because it gave me a simple choice. Either I wasted time on an activity that didn't matter, or I spent my time doing the things I personally enjoyed. I almost always made the right decision. When you find that routine that produces the same reward, you should realign your mindset to focus on repeating this behavior instead of dwelling on the habit you are trying to eliminate. In my opinion, the best way to make a lasting change is to have a step-by-step plan for those moments when you will experience that tendency to go back to the old behavior. You can do this by focusing on the triggers you identify in the previous lessons and have a plan for each one. My goal is for you to reprogram your mind to take a different action even when you feel that desire. All of this is possible when you have a strong escape plan in place. If you want to successfully eliminate a bad habit, you need to create a series of escape plans for those moments when you have the tendency to go back to that temptation. Let's go to our smoking example. Here are a few strategies you could implement. Instead of going to the bar with my colleagues, I will attend a meetup activity I will find interesting. Or at 6 p.m. every day, I will go out for a 30-minute walk to reduce stress. Or when Andrew invites me to Brian's house, I will suggest going to a swimming pool instead. The idea is to identify your weak points and create a plan for how you will act. This will be your first line of defense against a bad habit impulse. Whenever a desire appears, you will know exactly what to do instead. If you have an escape plan, you will understand clearly when you typically fail, and then you will create a plan for what to do when that scenario appears. Going back to my example with the smartphone in standby, the trigger usually started as a random thought. When I didn't have an escape plan, I often found myself automatically checking my phone without understanding why I was doing it. To eliminate this behavior, I came up with a few escape plans to follow whenever the desire to check my phone appeared. If I really must check a web page in the evening, I will do it from my laptop and stand up the entire time. That way, I will not get comfortable and end up wasting 30 minutes of my time. Or, if I feel like I need to check a certain web page, I will write down a reminder to follow up when I'm using my laptop. As you can see, you can get pretty creative with having a plan around your triggers. The idea is to clearly understand your weak points and have a strategy for managing them. Thank you very much, and see you in the next lesson.